this section, we will be looking at how to move cattle through the yards to minimise stress to the cattle and ensure the safety of the operators. We will demonstrate how to move the cattle using horses as well as on foot. Watch carefully and notice that we are not touching the cattle or making noise to move them through the yards. Instead, we are using our body position, movement and cattle behaviour to move them through the yards. When entering the slot yards, make sure you go down the side closest to the shed. This will mean that you are inside the curve of the cattle. When moving the cattle in the lane, go from side to side in the lane so that all the cattle can see you. When you do this, you are moving in and out of the cattle's blind spot. This will allow you to get good flow and movement into the cattle. When moving them on concrete, be patient and careful so that you and the cattle do not slip or fall. Make sure you use your gates wherever possible. They are a great control point, which will assist you with the direction we want to take the cattle. Allow the cattle to go back to where they came from. This will help communicate with the cattle where we want them to go. Again, start the lead, then move to the back of the cattle and go from side to side so that you can influence all the cattle. Entering the shed is difficult as it is going from light to dark and the yards are getting smaller and there are many contrasts such as drains, changes in patterns, shadows and sunlight which cause the cattle to balk. The bud box works on two main principles. Firstly, that the cattle want to go back to where they came from. And secondly, that cattle move around us in a curve. So never fill the bud box more than 30% and always work the bud box from the crush side of the box so you are inside the curve. Again, start the lead animal, then regulate the flow of the animals by using parallel movement. You can use the gate in the bud box to assist you. However, do not stand behind the gate, stand at the end of the gate. If you are having trouble with the cattle in the bud box, you either have too many or are in the wrong position. Position is the key to moving the cattle out of the bud box and into the race. If the cattle are moving down the race and do not stop, leave them alone. You may need to tie up the bump gates and move the divider so the cattle do not balk. When necessary, use parallel movement to move the cattle down the race. You can also use your body movement to get them to move if they have stopped. Remember that cattle have two eyes, so if you have a difficult animal, influence it from both sides of the race to get it to move. Do not put your hands in the race as you can get hurt. Do not hit or poke cattle to get them to move or yell and scream. Remember, we are caring for the cattle and must minimize any stress to the cattle. If you handle cattle poorly, this will make the animals difficult to move and handle in the future. Never leave the cattle in the race for long periods of time. If you are going to have a break, empty the race. The crush is the smallest area in the yards and often cattle do not want to enter as it is dark, there is nowhere to go and they may have bad memories from previous experiences. So it is important to handle the cattle as best we can when we carry out any procedures in the crush. To get the cattle to enter the crush, you may need to open the front door, which will let them think there is somewhere to go and also brightens the area inside the crush. The main objective is always to get the animal in the crush first. Then we can think about restraining it with the head catch and the squeeze. When releasing the animal, firstly release the head restraint and then the squeeze. Only keep the animal in the crush for the shortest possible time. Always carry out procedures to minimize pain and distress to the animals. Remember, cattle have very good memories and their previous experiences influence how they behave. I hope you've enjoyed watching how we move the cattle through the yards using a systems approach. You can now go on and watch the rest of the series and see how we use a system in moving cattle in and out of winter pens and on pastures.